Hey guys, it is me. I'm back. I know I took a little bit of a break. I'm sorry. I have just honestly been a little bit down. My daughter is about to be 3 months old now, so that postpartum is kind of coming and going, but everything is good. She is good, and I am back. So I want to talk about a case today with a guy. His name is Daniel Laplante. I'm not sure if you've heard about him or not, but his case is pretty crazy. It kind of gives me like weebie-jeebies. It's just crazy and creepy. It's named after, I did my last case, it was after a book, and this one is after a book too. The book is called A Boy in the Walls, and I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but I'm definitely going to, because I've done a ton of research on this case, and I do love reading books. I love reading the book, like any kind of book. The book is always better than any kind of movie, so but today we will be talking about Daniel Laplante. And oh, to mention, by the way, some of you actually emailed me and asked about Shelly, and if because she was supposed to get out of prison in June of 2022, so this year she was supposed to get out of prison, and they actually are keeping her in prison, so she did not get out. She has no release time any day soon or anything like that, so that's really good. Her daughters were really nervous and really worried, so they do not have to have to worry about that for a while at least, which is good. But do you guys know somebody that takes rejection well? Because I think that a lot of us don't take rejection well, but Daniel did not at all. These behaviors might manifest themselves as like obsessively checking your phone, checking social media, calling somebody over and over and over again, or giving them unwanted gifts or something that they don't want, or just going up to them and asking them to, harassing them over and over and over to do something. I don't think that any of us have ever met somebody like Daniel Laplante that took rejection so bad. He was not a very good person. He was born on May 16th, 1970 in Townsend, Massachusetts. There's not like a whole ton of information about his background or his childhood, except for there was a lot of abuse in his childhood, and that was everything from sexual, emotional, physical abuse, and this was all by his father, who was named David Moore, and he also lived with his mother named Elaine Moore, and he had 2 brothers, Stephen and Matthew. And like I said, he had a very miserable, traumatic growing up, so it was not good. At school, he definitely struggled academically, because he did have dyslexia, and it makes it very hard to do well in school or any other type of subject, reading, just anything, because you see, or everything is backwards, so it's really hard to do well in school or anything at all. His social life was pretty much non-existent. He had no friends. Other kids found him, kind of creepy and weird. He consistently came to school wearing dirty clothes, or wearing clothes that he had been wearing all week, and just not smelling good at all. So nobody wanted to sit next to him, and everyone really tried to avoid him, which is really sad. His parents should have definitely tried harder to help him and just try to raise him better. During his early teens, he actually started seeing a psychiatrist, because his school counselor said that, she had noticed that she thinks that he should start seeing one, and a couple of the other students that he had been in class with said that he should probably see one also. So they did recommend that, and that's when they also found out that he had hyperactivity disorder, so he had ADD or ADHD. And this psychiatrist, instead of, you know, helping him and talking with him and things like that, the psychiatrist ended up sexually abusing him, which is so messed up. Like, why would you do that? Why would you do that to anybody? And why would you do that to a kid that's looking for help in high school, who's already having a really hard time? It just doesn't, it's just really awful. That does not make sense at all. The abuse went on for over a year. That's a really long time. Unsurprisingly, Daniel ended the sessions in an even worse, you know, mental behavior kind of brain that he went in with, because after having these sessions, he would be sexually abused. So he's not going to come out of these in a good headspace. So his parents were kind of wondering what was going on and why wasn't he getting better and things like that. This was actually around the same time that Daniel's kind of criminal background began. Instead of spending his time doing what most teens did, like hanging out with each other, going to the movies, going to sports games, things like that, Daniel started breaking into people's houses. So he started doing these things, and he's going to start to get in trouble. It was clear that his motivation was not just to break into the house to steal things. It was definitely something else. He was not breaking in and entering just to steal valuables. Of course, he would take things when he was in there. If he saw stuff that he wanted or things that he liked or things like that, he would take them while he was in there. But the thrill of being in someone else's home without them knowing gave him the biggest rush of all. So him being inside someone's home while they were home at the same time, and them not even knowing that he was there, that was what he was really chasing, was that rush, and not stealing anybody's stuff. He would root around in people's belongings. He would move their objects and furniture. So he also left items alone, like he would leave half-drinking drinks, half-eaten like cupcakes or snacks, or leave a half-eaten thing, a bag of chips, just to kind of mess with the people's heads. And it definitely did, because he derived pleasure from knowing that he was scaring people and kind of messing with their heads, even making them think they were losing their minds or going crazy. So let's talk about the Andrews family. They were the first family that we're going to kind of talk about, and this was in 1986. They lived in the nearby town. His name was Brian Andrews. He lived in the nearby town of Pepperell, Massachusetts, with his two daughters, 15-year-old Annie and 8-year-old Jessica. They were kind of going through a rough time right now, because both of their mothers, they had the same mom. She did have cancer, and his wife had cancer. So yeah, they were going through a really hard time. But during this, they tried to stay as close to each other as they could. Losing their mother actually brought them closer together. And when Annie was 15, she started to kind of be interested in boys, you know, being in high school and just getting in high school and talking to boys and stuff like that. Her and her friends would talk about dating, who had a crush on who liked who, and, you know, just typical girl stuff, typical stuff that you talk about and do at sleepovers and everything like that. And so when Annie began receiving phone calls from a boy, she was really, really interested. The boy told her his name was Danny, and that he had gotten her phone number from a mutual friend who attended her high school also. But of course this was a lie. It is believed that he had previously broken into the Andrews home and done some creeping around inside. While he was inside, he found out that Annie actually lived there. He saw her in the family pictures and he thought that she was really pretty, and he just wanted to pursue her. He actually became obsessed with her, like I talked about in the beginning, like how he did. And then he did some digging around the house and found out the family's phone number and ended up calling her. So that is how he got to talk to her. On the phone, he described himself as tall, blonde, athletic, and very smart, also popular in school. So he was making himself seem like a real big shot when I think that he was just having a hard time himself. I shouldn't be laughing, I'm sorry. But he would say, I'm very good looking, but I would not be surprised if Annie went along with it, because he told her all of these lies and she believed them all. They spoke regularly on the phone almost every night. Every week they talked on the phone. Finally, Danny asked her when he was going to be able to take her out on a date, and she said, you know, whenever you want to is fine with me. I agree, and I would love to go on a date with you. And he would pick her up at her house and they would go to the local fair. When this day arrived, Annie was excited. When the doorbell rang, she rushed to answer the door, but when she answered the door, she was kind of taken back. She didn't see a tall, blonde, really handsome man there. She saw a boy who stood on the doorstep. He did not look like anything that she expected. Like I said on the phone, he said he was tall, blonde, and athletic, but he was none of these things. The boy was about 5'8", very thin, with greasy dark hair and heavy, untamed eyebrows. His skin was riddled with acne, and he introduced himself as Danny. Annie, trying to hide her dismay, I guess, from being so surprised, and just, it says that she was disgusted, but I hate to say that. She still went on this date, even though she was completely horrified. She still went on. She did get bad vibes from the moment she set eyes on Danny. It was like she knew that something wasn't right about him, or that it was just something weird that set off, you know, just wrong vibes from the minute that she saw him or that she talked to him. As I walked through the fair, Annie told Danny about her family, mentioning the recent death of her mother from cancer. It was as though the mention of death flicked a switch in Danny. His eyes suddenly lit up and became extremely animated. He began bombarding Annie with questions about the death. Understandably, the quizzing from Danny about her dead mother, which suited questions about how badly she suffered from the illness, how sick she was, what Annie had to do to help her, just all these questions that you don't ask people about their family member who has died, or especially just barely died, where she is very actively grieving right now, and made Annie very, very uncomfortable. After being with Danny for about an hour, Annie decided that she spent long enough with him and that she wanted to go home. She told him that she wanted to go home, turned around and left. She made it very clear that she didn't want to see or talk to him ever again. And this is when some unsettling things started happening. Several days later, the Andrews sisters were hanging out at home when they started talking about their mom. They began telling stories about her, reminiscing about good times and about their family as a whole. They loved talking about their mom. They thought that, you know, maybe when they talked about her, their mom could hear them talking. Maybe she was like, not a ghost, but, you know, she was there listening and talking with them. And they were reminiscing about her, and they had an idea. They would do, you know, a seance and see if they could actually get across to talking about her. They did not actually expect anything to happen, but they had little else to do, so they thought that they would just give it a try and see if anything would happen. So they went down to the basement to what they thought they were supposed to be doing a seance. They lit candles, held hands, sang songs. They weren't taking it very seriously, but it was a distraction, and they both needed that. When Brian came home from work, they ended it though. They did not want him to know what they were doing and think that they were kind of going crazy. So as they were laying in their beds that night, starting to go to sleep, they start hearing a tapping on the wall, and it's kind of a rhythmic, like just like tapping like that. And they thought, they both sat up and they thought, is that, like, did our seance really work? Is that Mom? Who is that? And they got all giddy and got really happy and excited, thinking that it was actually working. The excitement, however, was short-lived. This tapping became pretty consistent and only occurred when they were home alone or in the dead of night when their father was asleep. It was becoming disruptive to the point that the girls were losing sleep, and they actually started doing bad in school. Not bad, but they started falling behind a little bit because they were losing sleep and they were exhausted from staying up all night wondering what was tapping at their walls. And I would be too. I would be like I would be up all night wondering, what the hell is that? Like, one evening the girls were home alone and the tapping began again. I would be freaking out if I was 8 and 12 and somebody was tapping on the walls. But this time it sounded as it was coming from below them, like somebody was tapping on the ceiling, like in a basement. Annie grabbed a kitchen knife, and together the two of them went to the basement. To their horror, there on the wall of the basement was a message. It looked like it was written in blood, and in blood the message said, "I'm in your room, come and find me." Stunned, Annie and Jessica turned and fled up the basement stairs and out of the house. They ran to a neighbor's house who let them stay with them until their father returned home from work that night. Brian did not know that his daughters were playing or doing the seances. He was still convinced that it was all strange occurrences, including the writing on the wall, which, come on now, that's pretty crazy, unless your daughters are lying and they actually did it. That's crazy. I would never, if I would leave that house and burn it down, because I'm not going back. But the father kind of thought their behavior was a result of grief. So the girls started seeing a therapist also. In January 1987, the Andrews family was not, whatever was messing with the Andrews family was not done with them. It had been about 2 weeks since the incident happened with the writing on the basement walls, and the knocking on the walls had actually stopped. However, the relief would not last. The girls were home alone when the knocking started again. This time it was coming from Annie's bedroom. Annie once again picked up a kitchen knife, and together the two girls made their way up the stairs. When they reached the doorway to Annie's bedroom, they saw another message written on the wall, and it said, "I'm back. Find me if you can." Oh my God, I would be freaking out. So screaming, the girls spun around, hurling down the stairs as fast as they could. They bolted out the front door to the neighbor's home again, and again the neighbors let them in. They were shaking with fright, and they told their neighbor that they once again found writing on the wall of their house. Symptomatic to the girls who just lost their mother, the neighbor told them they could come in and call their father. The father was once again irritated. Brian was irritated again. He was like, "Girls, stop making all this up. You know, you're making me leave work early. You're making us all lose sleep. We have to stop doing this." And when he arrived, he marched straight up into the house, up the stairs. Sure enough, the writing was still on the wall. This is where it gets like a little bit, like fuzzy, but as well as the writing on the walls, there was another message on the wall. One of the girls had not mentioned to him while they were on the phone talking to him. It had appeared since they fled the house. So when they were there before, it was not there. And when they fled the house and came back, it had reappeared, and it read, "Marry me," it said on the walls. It was then that it hit Brian Andrews. The writing on the walls, the knocking, the mysterious moving objects, the half-eaten food, the drinks, all of that was not just products of his daughter's imaginations. There was something far more sinister going on here. And then at the corner of his eye, something moved. He spun around to see a short, scrawny boy standing in the hall. The boy's face was caked in makeup. He was wearing a blonde wig and a dress that belonged to Brian's wife. Imagine how pissed off and just like whatever you would be to see this boy wearing your wife's dress that just died, and a boy that's in your house that's been hiding in it gives me the weebie-jeebies. Some even report he was wearing her wedding dress, but I'm not sure. This is just like sayings. This is just research that I saw. And in his hand, he had a hatchet. It's unclear exactly what really unfolded next. All I read was that Brian struggled with the intruder, but he did get away. We're not sure if Brian fainted or he was knocked out, but either way, the boy ended up disappearing. Behind a chest of drawers or closet in Annie's bedroom, the police, when they showed up, found a small door. And upon opening it, they discovered a crawl space. Inside was a small, dark-haired boy, the boy who had attacked Brian Andrews. It was none other than Daniel Laplante, whom Annie Andrews had gone on the terrible date with about 2 months before. Reports vary on how long he had been hiding in their house. Some state several days, while others say it has been as long as 2 months. 2 months. That is a long time. They found a range of items in the crawl space, mostly garbage from like the food and snacks and stuff he was eating in there, but even things including a sleeping bag. So he was sleeping in there, I mean obviously, but beer cans, food wrappers, and some articles of clothing, including some things of clothing that belonged to the Andrews family that had disappeared, and you all probably know what some things of clothing that is. But the crawl space was connected to a passageway, which Daniel would have been able to crawl through and knock on the walls in different parts of the house. So he could crawl through the house, go in different parts of it. You know, they heard him under him. He would be under them knocking on the ceiling. He could be knocking anywhere in the house. And that's when Daniel was arrested. So, he was removed from their house and arrested. He was 16 at that time, so he was charged as a juvie. Well, he was put in juvenile detention, where he spent 10 months. And then when he turned 17 on May 16th in 1987, that's when they moved him to a bigger facility. He was being charged as an adult, so that meant that he could post bail, which his mother helped him with, and then he was then free to leave the juvenile detention facility. He was charged with 4 counts of kidnapping, 4 counts of armed assault in a dwelling, breaking and entering a dwelling, larceny of more than $100, and malicious destruction of property. On December 11th, 1987, he was due to appear in the Middlesex Superior Court, but he could not be found. He apparently had other plans. His stay at the juvenile detention center did not curb any of his ways. In November, he broke into a neighbor's home. This time, Daniel did not mess around at all. He did not play games. He didn't do the knocking thing and none of that. Did not rearrange any furniture. Instead, he entered the home and stole 2 handguns. So this is where he comes to find his next victims, who are named the Gustafins. On the afternoon of December 1st, 1987, Daniel Plant, armed with 2 stolen handguns, walked the half-mile from his home to the Gustafin family. The Gustafin family included 33-year-old Priscilla, her husband 34-year-old Andrew, and their 2 children, 7-year-old Abigail and 5-year-old William. Priscilla was pregnant with the couple's third child. A church nursery school teacher, Priscilla was extremely sweet and caring. She sung in their church choir and was dedicated to the Christian faith. Daniel entered the Gustafsons' home, and it was Christmas at the time, so it was beautifully decorated. To find Priscilla and William, Abigail took the bus back from school each day and walked the short distance. Andrew, an attorney, was at work. It's not exactly clear like how long or the time frame or anything like that, but Daniel got Priscilla in her bedroom where he beat, and this is a trigger warning, so if you don't want to, I forgot to tell you this at the beginning of the video, but yeah, this is definitely a triggered video. If you don't want any to hear anything to do with sexual abuse, rape, anything like that, skip forward or skip to my next video. That would be great. Thank you. But he did take Priscilla, the mother who was pregnant, into the bedroom and beat and raped her. He put a pillow over her head and shot through it twice to muffle the sound. He then drowned William in the bathtub upstairs, and when Abigail returned from school, he drowned her in the bathroom downstairs. When Andrew arrived from work that day around 5, the house was so quiet, like eerily quiet. He made his way upstairs. When he went upstairs, he came to a horrible sight. Of course, he found his wife, who had been shot in the head twice and raped, who was pregnant, and he found both of his children. One was drowned in the bathroom upstairs, and one was drowned in the bathroom downstairs. It's very sad. When the police arrived, they discovered the bodies of all of them. They also found the .22 caliber bullet, the casings, and an open untouched can of beer, also semen stains on the bed. They also discovered shoe prints in the flower bed outside of the home. This is when they started a manhunt for Daniel Laplante. So nobody could fathom that somebody would do something this evil. Nobody had any ideas of who it could be, anything like that, because this is such a horrible thing to do to somebody. Like, why would you do this? Detectives came up with a list of possible suspects. Unsurprisingly, given his previous crimes against the Andrews family, and then the fact that he broke in and all of that, he did not make a first list. But when they did make a second list from the juvenile detention facility, Daniel Laplante was on there, and that's where they got his name from. They also, he was put on the TV and all that so that people could watch out for him and all that. Daniel was arrested without incident, but he was said to be laughing hysterically, which police officers found to be bewildering. While searching his person, police discovered he had a gun in his underwear, so he was charged with the murders of Priscilla Abigail and William Gustafson. He received a range of other charges related to the crimes he had committed while on the run from the police. Some of them included having a .22 caliber bullet casing, a pair of Converse sneakers which matched the prints that were in the flower bed. A sock with saliva on it was found, which police believed he used to gag Priscilla. And then on one of Danny's socks was found to have fibers that matched the socks that was found to gag her. They found the cordless phone that had been stolen from the Gustafsons. A thumbprint, which belonged to Daniel, was identified on the phone. And at the trial, a canine officer testified that the scent dog picked up a scent from an object in the Gustafsons' home, and the dog followed the scent straight back at like a half a mile straight to Daniel Laplante's home. So he did plead not guilty to all 3 murder trials. And his trial began October 1988, which by this time he was 18. So he was ordered, of course, to undergo a psychiatric evaluation, which he was found that he was able to sit trial, that he was, you know, had enough mental capacity and was okay and was there to sit trial. So he did. They called as many as 50 witnesses, many of which were Daniel's own family members. So they did have a pretty solid case. And after his conviction, it was found that that they did evidently prove his guilt. So he was put in jail for a while. In 2013, Daniel made claims that he was not allowed to properly exercise his faith while in prison, which I found was interesting. So while in prison, he decided to become Wiccan, and in order to worship, he demanded that he was brought various ritual oils. These included dragon's blood, black opium, honeysuckle, and apparently he was also required carrot cake. So Daniel Laplante now. So in 2017, he was 46 years old. He appealed for reduced sentence after the Supreme Court ruled that juveniles cannot be sentenced to life in prison without parole. So he had already been in prison for 30 years and hoped his sentence would be changed so that he could serve his life sentences concurrently rather than consecutively. That would have made him eligible for parole in 2017 rather than in 2032 after serving 3 life sentences, which is 45 years in total. But Daniel Laplante, so she formally resentenced Daniel to his original sentence, 3 life sentences, so he would have the opportunity for parole after 45 years in 2032. A lot of people disagree with this. He killed a 33-year-old pregnant woman with a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old child, left the community completely devastated, and the court finds that the maximum penalty is warranted, and that was just from the Supreme Court. A lot of people thought this was not justice at all. They were completely disgusted. Like, it was just really awful. And a lot of people did not agree with it, but they, I guess, got what they asked for, because in May 2014, he did die of cancer at 60 years old. So something did come to him. But that's what happened to him. That's the story of that. It is so creepy. If you agree with me, give me a thumbs up on my video. Like and subscribe it, please. I know I'm not doing a good job of putting up a video every week. I'm going to really start trying. Like I said, I've been dealing with a little bit of depression lately, so it has been a little bit rough, but I'm trying. I will do a video next week for you guys, and just if you have any ideas, you can email me or anything like that and give me your idea. Just remember to subscribe to my page. That will really help get me some more followers and subscribers. I see where you guys look up my page, whoever I'm friends with. I see where y'all look up my page and watch my video, but you won't subscribe to me. So I don't know why, but yeah, just subscribe and just be supportive. Let's be supportive of each other. So that is all I have for today, but like I said, y'all have a good week, and I will see you next week with a new video. Thanks. Bye.